Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we talk about problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with a video.
19 years ago, I followed my mom to the hospital to give birth to my sister. My dad was at work, but he never came to the hospital and he never came back home from then on. I was devastated because I loved my dad so much. I was a daddy's girl, and he always said he loved me, but he left me. Every day for months, I stayed by the window to check if he would come back. I was 10 at the time, so I knew what it meant for someone to leave. I thought I did something wrong, and that was why he left me. I grew into an angry teenager, and I thought that love was too painful, so it was better not to love. My mother never really talked about what happened. She always changed the subject when I asked her about it, and the only thing she would say, if at all, was that she didn't know where my dad was. As years went by, I began to hate Dad, and all the wonderful memories we had seemed like a thorn in my flesh. I so desperately wanted to forget them. I thought it would have been better if he had died than knowing that he was still alive and he chose to abandon me and my sister. It was a painful reality. I thought it was even worse for my sister because she never met her father. What kind of father leaves his wife on the day that she gives birth? One of my friends asked me to go look for him and demand answers, but I didn't want to. I'd much rather forget that he ever existed. As a family, my mom, sister, and I didn't lack anything because my mom was a hard worker, and she made sure to cater for us. My dad's friend was always around us too, and he helped out as well. He was the closest thing to a father that my sister knew, and he tried to be there for her as much as he could. Even in my adulthood, I couldn't still shake off the feeling that it was my fault that my dad left us, and I always blamed myself for making my sister not have a father. I never said this to anyone, but it was the reason why I was a bad teenager. Being scolded for something else just seemed better than my inner turmoil, so I kept on getting in trouble, and my group of friends were not any help at all. In fact, if you were to compare all of us, you would conclude that I was better off than my friends. I outgrew my teenage years, and I met a boy I liked in college. He advised me to see a doctor to talk about my inner demons, as he called it. I did it just because I liked him. I wasn't planning on having a productive time at the doctor's, but to my surprise, I loved the session and I began to heal. The therapy did me a lot of good. We eventually dated for a while and later broke up, but I did not regret meeting him at all because he taught me that I was capable of loving and being loved. Some months ago, I got a call from someone. He said he was my dad, so I cut the call. I didn't want to hear anything from the man that destroyed my childhood and my teenage years to the point where I'm still trying to find myself as an adult. I had believed so much that he left because of me, so I hated myself and at some point had suicidal thoughts. I cut the call, but somewhere in my heart I wished he would try again. I didn't tell anyone that Dad tried to reach out because I didn't know how they would react. I was disappointed that he didn't call back. In my mind, if he really wanted to speak to me, he could at least make continuous effort for all he put me through. He didn't call back. One sunny afternoon, I was walking to go and get lunch and I got a call from a number that wasn't saved on my phone. I suspected it was him, and I wondered if I should answer or not. I answered, and he said he wanted to speak to me. I told him to be quick, and I started to rant about how I wanted nothing to do with an irresponsible father. He said that he wanted to tell me the real reason why he left. That made me quiet, and I started listening. I couldn't believe what he said. It had to be a lie. He said he left because my mom cheated on him and my sister was not his child. He was going to forgive her, but on the day that my sister was born, he couldn't bear it, so he left. He mentioned that after a year, he reached out to my mom about a divorce, and they signed the papers, but he kept sending money for our upkeep because he felt that it was his responsibility, and he wanted to make sure that I was all right and didn't lack anything. This had to be a scheme. to put the blame on my mom so he would seem like a better person. He did everything to convince me and begged to see me for breakfast the next day so we could talk about it. I agreed to go. The following day, I felt horrible because I had cried myself to sleep. It was like old wounds had opened up. It was confusing to me because all my life I had thought that he was the evil person for leaving. Meanwhile, it was my mom all the time. It would have been better if it was actually him that left because at least I had come to terms with it over the years. I felt all sorts of emotions, but I decided to get a hold of myself and not say anything to my mom unless I was sure. I had breakfast with my dad for the first time in 19 years. He had changed so much. He looked really healthy and buff, even for a 56-year-old. He told me that after the incident with my mom, which I still find hard to believe, he moved to Australia and started a new life there. After the divorce with my mom, he was still heartbroken and couldn't date anyone else. He said that he felt a void in his heart for years until he met his new wife 2 years ago. They have only been married for a few months and she made him come back to America to mend things with his family. He felt like he owed me an explanation for leaving like that, and it had haunted him for years, but getting the push from his wife made him decide to come to me. I told him that I couldn't confirm that what he was saying was true, so he would have to follow me home to see my mom. I could tell that he was hesitant, but he obliged. We decided to go during the weekend because I had a tight work schedule. On Saturday, we met up and I drove us to my mom's. I only told her I was coming but did not mention Dad. She was shocked to see him and it was very awkward. It was amazing that my dad's friend was there too because I knew that he would know something and could confirm the truth for me. I told her what my dad said and asked for an explanation. She started crying and saying how sorry she was. My heart seriously sank because I was expecting that it would all be a lie and my dad would remain the bad guy. That was much easier for me. She said that it was true that she cheated and got pregnant for someone else. He found out that she was cheating but was ready to forgive her. But on the day that my sister was born, he found out who the father was and he couldn't handle it, so he left. My sister's father was my dad's friend. Now it made sense why he was always around us and was so interested in my sister and her well-being. It hurt me that my mom knew that I was going through so much trouble because my dad left and even began to hate him, but she never mentioned her role in making him leave. I'm an adult, and I have had my heart broken before, so I can imagine how Dad must have felt when he left. She never also told me that he had been sending money to take care of me. It wasn't my dad that was the bad guy after all, but my mom. My sister overheard the conversation, and she couldn't believe that her father was there all along, but he never admitted to her that he was her father. She had always thought that she was different from her peers because they all knew their fathers and she didn't. She thought that Mom and her dad were just being selfish. They were the ones who did wrong, but tried to conceal it, and since it was more convenient to put the blame on my father, who wasn't in the picture anymore, they did. Over a couple of weeks, there was a lot of tension. Everyone was walking on eggshells. I, on the other hand, had been going out with my dad. I wanted to spend as much time with him as I could before he went back to Australia. I wished he could move back to America so I would see him more often, but I knew that would be selfish of me since he just started a family. My dad, I came to find out, is a very lovely person. I missed him so much. Sometimes my sister was with us as well, and we had so much fun together. On one of those days, we spoke to my dad's wife, and I thanked her for being a push in the right direction. I didn't care that my sister was actually my stepsister. I still love her so much and would do anything to make sure that she's okay. My dad told us that it was time to forgive our mom and his friend, and that was why he came back. He had genuinely forgiven them, and he wanted us to do the same. I thought that if my father could forgive my mom and his friend, then I could do too. We went to my mom's house, and we gave each other long hugs and kisses. It was a teary moment, but very satisfying. NTA, I'm sorry that you went through a lot thinking that it was your fault that your dad left. While I understand that your mom was protecting the image that you have of her, she had no right to keep it from you. NTA, your dad's friend, came in like a silent killer. He just silently destroyed the family and remained there years after.
Next story.
So, to add some context, I, 24, male, have been dating my partner, 22, female, for 3 years. We've lived together for most of it. I'm not the biggest fan of her family, but up until this point, I didn't mind spending time with them, as it makes my girlfriend happy. So we had a sit-down meal with her family, and we were all just chatting after we had finished dinner. My girlfriend's sister, 17, we'll call her Grace, went into the fridge and asked my girlfriend if she could have the last chocolate pudding my girlfriend bought. My girlfriend said no, as she fancied it. Grace kept asking, and my girlfriend kept saying no. Each time she asked, it would progressively get louder and louder. I didn't say anything at this point, as I thought it was a typical sibling argument. It seemed very petty to me. Grace is shouting and whining at this point, honestly reminding me of how a toddler might behave. Their dad has been silent this entire time, and their mom said to give her the pudding as it's a nice thing to do. My girlfriend said no and didn't understand why her answer wasn't being respected. Grace then brings up when she looked after my girlfriend when she was ill, and that because she was nice then, she should be nice now. My girlfriend is distressed as Grace is screaming about it. My girlfriend asks what I think. I said to Grace that she undermined her kind act by using it as leverage to get what she wants. Grace says, but karma works, that if you do nice things, then nice things will happen to you. Her mom nods in agreement. I sat there a bit bewildered. So after being sick of hearing a teenager screaming over a chocolate pudding, I said, that isn't karma, you're just being emotionally manipulative to get what you want. People that believe in karma don't demand nice things happen to them. As a bit of a side context, I'm a philosophy graduate, and whenever I hear karma misinterpreted, it irks me a bit, as it's a beautiful piece of Indian philosophy and the West has kind of shit all over it. Grace loses her shit at me, screams, I'm a so-and-so, and she wishes my girlfriend never met me, then rushes out of the room. Her parents have said nothing. They both just say nothing. I'm sitting there waiting for them to discipline their child, but nothing is said. So I just politely make my excuses and leave to my girlfriend's room. My girlfriend comes up and hugs me. My girlfriend opened up to me that she often feels that she is held to a different standard as she's the eldest. Her parents 100% blame me for the situation and are furious that I got involved. They expected me to apologize. I did not. I'm not really angry at Grace. She's still young, and I actually blame her parents for not disciplining her at all. It might be easy to blame the outsider, but the only person that will suffer in the future is Grace, when she realizes that only family could put up with that. So AITA for getting involved when asked? Or was I just doing what partners do, which is defend them when they're distressed? NTA, that kid is going to be in for a big surprise when she goes out into the world. It's her parents' job to make sure she's prepared for that, and they've obviously failed her. Your poor girlfriend. I'd go low contact with her family if it's like this. Give her my condolences. I'm from a similar situation in my upbringing. I've healed a lot with age 30 and therapy. She owes her family nothing and shouldn't feel guilty about keeping her boundaries with them, even if it's over pudding. Best wishes. NTA, I would be humiliated if my child acted like Grace did. And besides, your girlfriend invited you into the conversation. My guess is that Grace's parents have never told her she's wrong about anything, and it is fairly typical for teenagers to think they know everything. Grace hated being shown up for being wrong. I can't believe her parents expect you to apologize after she called you a name.
Next story.
I, 41, female, have one son, 14. My husband, 41, has two daughters, 14 and 16. Typically, we all get along good. It can be rough with 3 teenagers, but we make it work. We've been together 10 years. What happened today shouldn't be this huge, but I'm sitting in a hotel room with my son, emailing people about apartments and splitting phone lines. This afternoon, my husband was outside with the two 14-year-olds putting together a basketball hoop. Someone left the door open and the dog got out. He said to them, "If the dog is out, you guys better be watching her." My son said yes, he would watch the dog. His daughter said yes, she would watch the dog. They didn't. The dog ran off, so everyone left and started looking for her. I found her and carried her back home just as my husband and stepdaughter pulled in from searching. I called my son, who was out on his bike looking. I told both kids she's all muddy, so whoever said they'd watched her is in charge of giving her a bath. No big deal. Mistakes happen. My son, on the phone, said I would watch her, but so did his sister. His daughter said, "No, I never said that." My son, still on the phone, repeated that yes, she did. I asked her again, "Are you sure you didn't say you'd watch the dog?" Again, she said no, she didn't say that. I hung up with my son and he came home 2 minutes later. I told him to tell me exactly what happened. He said, "Dog got out." I said, "I would watch her." She said she would watch her. We forgot and she got away. I looked at his daughter and asked one more time if she said that. She said, "Oh, now I remember that yes, I did say that." She immediately started bawling and runs off, which is her signature move. She hates to be in trouble, and she just got caught lying. She's the best behaved child we have. She'll do anything not to get in trouble. We treat her less harshly when she is in trouble than the other two because of the way she reacts to being in trouble. My husband never yells or loses his temper, only when she cries. Literally, that's the only time he ever gets upset. Dad starts screaming at me. "You were out of line. The dog shouldn't even have been outside." Then he screams, "She didn't lie. She didn't mean she would really watch the dog. She said it sarcastically. Therefore, it's not a lie." This isn't the first time he's done this. He makes excuses for his girls when they misbehave every time. I thought he was making real progress recognizing when he made excuses. I'm really, really tired of fighting this fight. Standing up for myself is getting so old. This was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. So, AITA? Or is my husband? Your husband is the a-hole. Not only because he's wrong and enabling her complete and total inability to ever admit she's made a mistake, but for screaming at you instead of discussing a parenting issue calmly. How much longer are you going to tolerate that nonsense? NTA. Admittedly, this wasn't the biggest of incidents, but it sounds like the daughter has found a way of manipulating both of you, and particularly her father, to get out of being punished when she does something wrong by turning on the waterworks. And your husband, it seems, is falling for this tactic hard. She now knows that her father will lose his temper and yell at you when she starts crying. She is the real a-hole here, and your husband is just being dumb for falling for it time after time. BTW, if someone says they will do something and doesn't do it, it doesn't matter if they were being sarcastic or not. It is still a lie. Your husband is really stretching things to try to justify why his daughter shouldn't be in trouble. I can't blame you for being fed up with this whole stupid game.